The materials you'll need for this week's puzzle project are a piece of tagboard, which is a thin cardboard. You can get it from a cereal box or pancake mix or other packaging that's similar to that. You'll also need a piece of white paper that is at least the same size as your tagboard. It can be larger, that's okay, we'll trim it later. You'll also need a permanent marker, scissors, a glue stick, and then any sort of art materials that you would like to create your image from. I used markers for my project, but feel free to use any materials. Remember, it is a puzzle, so you will be handling it, so I wouldn't suggest using something like crayons, oil pastels, chalk pastels. Those can get a little bit messy. So the first step of your project is to glue the paper to your tagboard. I chose to glue it to the cardboard side and not the side with the label. The label side tends to be a little glossy or shiny, and your glue stick doesn't stick as well to that. So the cardboard side is more matte and it has a better stick to it. You want to make sure that your paper is stuck on there permanently. So I am using my glue stick all the way around the edge and all over the inside of the rectangle that I cut out. You want to do this pretty quickly so the glue doesn't dry on you. You'll see I had some chunks of glue left on, and I don't recommend doing that. I had to try to smooth them out later, which took a little time. But you want it to be a nice thin layer of glue and have your paper pressed down nice and firmly to it. So I'm using the palm of my hand, starting from the inside of the paper and moving outwards to try to push out any air bubbles that might have happened. And take your time with this because you want this to last. If it starts to peel up, it will just get worse as you go. So take your time and really press it down, paying attention especially to the edges to make sure that there's no more air bubbles. Don't forget to shut your glue stick so that your glue stick doesn't dry out and you can take care of your materials at home just like we do in the art classroom. Now you can turn your paper over and trim any excess paper off of the edge. If you didn't have a nice clean edge of your tag board, you could cut both papers at the same time. You also don't need your puzzle to be a rectangle. If you wanted it to be an interesting shape, now would be your chance to make that happen. So you could cut both pieces, the tag board and the white paper, together to create an interesting shape if you want to give your puzzle a different challenge as well. I just went with a traditional rectangle for my puzzle. Now that your papers are trimmed, just go over one more time to make sure that the paper is stuck down. If the edges are coming up, do that now where you add a little bit more glue and just make sure that it's all set and ready to go. And then now it's time to design your puzzle. You can use this paper now to draw whatever you would like for your puzzle. I chose to draw an abstract rainbow drawing. The more abstract your design is, the more difficult the puzzle will be. So abstract means it's not recognizable. So you could make your puzzle a recognizable object or image, and then that will be easier to complete. My puzzle ended up being really difficult to put together, so the more abstract it is, the harder the puzzle will be. So it just depends on the audience or who you want to be using your puzzle once it's complete. If it's for you, challenge yourself and make it difficult, make it interesting or complex. Or if you just want to have fun with your drawing as well, it can be simple. That's completely a decision that you get to make on this assignment. You should pay attention to the composition of your design, no matter how complex or simple it is. The composition means the arrangement of your design on your canvas, or in this case, on your puzzle. So if it's an abstract drawing, especially, I wanted my design to go all the way to the edge of my puzzle, and then that will give me kind of help when I make it in the end. If you have a lot of white space, that's still fine for your puzzle, but you just won't have your drawing there. So it's just one thing to think about is making sure that you go all the way to the edges. Once your drawing is complete, it's time to turn it over to create your puzzle pieces. So I am using my permanent marker to create the design of those pieces. I'm starting with vertical wavy lines that go from the top to the bottom of my puzzle. You will need to cut these out on the line smoothly, so I wouldn't make them too complex. Again, you need to cut them out without cutting away any of your puzzle pieces. So you could try to do a traditional puzzle piece shape, but that's just really hard to cut out with your scissors. So feel free to challenge yourself, but you don't want to lose any of your design. So even just a simple wavy design will still make your puzzle really interesting. So I started with vertical lines up and down, and then I'm making basically a checkerboard. I turned my puzzle to the side and am now doing vertical lines again. So you need vertical and horizontal wavy lines. You could just make it a straight checkerboard if you wanted a more simple puzzle. That's up to you again. However you want to challenge yourself for this project, you get to decide. You now need to cut out on your lines. So if you don't get it perfectly on the line, that's fine. Just don't go back and try to trim it. That will cut off some of your design and you don't want to miss that. So again, aim for the lines. If it's not perfect, that's fine. Your goal is for the cuts to be smooth so that you don't cut away any of your awesome drawing on the front. You want to keep this entire rectangle or shape that you started with. If you have any scraps left over, that means your design is going away. So get as close as you can. And once all of your pieces are cut out, then you are finished and you get to use your new puzzle that you made. My puzzle ended up being so difficult, it took me an embarrassing long time to complete it, but I love it. I think that's the point of a puzzle. So like we mentioned before, the more abstract your drawing is, or the more difficult your cuts are on the back of your puzzle, the more of a challenge you'll have. So you get to decide what version you want to create, but think about those as you're going, or else you'll be working on your puzzle for a really long time like I was. Luckily, I got to speed it up so you don't have to see all of that. I would love to see the puzzles that you come up with, so please share a picture with me of your puzzle or of you trying to complete your puzzle. I am looking forward to seeing the work that you've made for this week's art assignment. I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to make more than one of these as well. It's pretty simple materials, so you could make a lot of these and you could share them with your neighbors or challenge your family members with them as well. There's endless possibilities for the designs that you could make for these, so hopefully you enjoy having a game along with an art activity as well. I hope you enjoy, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.